Meghan Markle a coward? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are dissecting a bit of the fallout of Meghan's decision to stay in Montecito, California in order to celebrate her son's Archie's birthday. Even though I'm sure recollections of the coronation will be much better for an adult Archie than his 4th birthday, but nevertheless, that's what Meghan and Harry are apparently doing. And looking at all this together and looking at the fallout and everything, I can't help but think, and I mentioned this in my last video, and I know actually a couple other people have mentioned this as well in news articles, that Meghan Markle is not really the powerful, fearless woman she portrays that she is. In fact, she's really very much a coward. This is perhaps the 3rd or 4th time she's completely abandoned her husband to face his family all by himself without really good reason for that. And I think just looking at their relationship, it's like, couldn't you spend just a couple of days? I mean, you're more than happy to travel halfway across the country to New York in order to get your day in the sun without your kids, but you're not willing to travel to the UK to allow your sons to see their grandparents, their cousins, their aunt and uncle. And instead, you just want to keep them in California in order to avoid being face to face with Harry's family. And I'm sorry, but that's pretty cowardly. Now, I will say this will be a nuanced video because you could say a couple of different things. Well, she's darned if she does and darned if she doesn't when it comes to attending this coronation. I think there's a lot of truth there. However, at the same time, when you look at everything together, there's been just a couple of instances where in the heat of the moment, in the biggest confrontation Harry has with his family, Meghan just abandons him and goes and does her own thing. And from a couple perspective, I think that's kind of pathetic. So we're going to discuss a little bit of that today. But if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary about the latest news and sometimes a little bit of gossip as well. In addition, I will be reviewing television shows and movies and sharing a bit about history too. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be awesome. I also have a weekly newsletter. I have a fashion channel dedicated to royals, and I also have a couple upcoming trips to Europe. So if you guys are interested in that, again, all the links for those things will be down below. Okay, so let's get into this whole Harry and Meghan thing, because one of the things that a couple of people mentioned in my comments is that they didn't really believe the statement at first because they thought it came from People magazine instead of Buckingham Palace, just to alleviate some of that concern and consternation or whatever. This did come directly from Buckingham Palace. Now, there's questions on how quickly between the two, People magazine, which is Harry and Meghan's preferred outlet, I think, anymore, and Buckingham Palace did this notification release. It seems like I think the Buckingham Palace one maybe beat the People one, but they came out about the same time. There's also, I guess, been some questions within the media sphere in general as to whether the Sussexes were going to announce it first or Buckingham Palace was going to announce it first. There's just, again, everything surrounding Harry and Meghan is needlessly complicated because they needlessly complicate their lives. That's who the two of them are. They just want to create as much controversy and drama as possible and then blame us, the public, and the media for creating drama. And it's like, but you guys did it. All you had to do is let us know months ago, apparently when Meghan and Harry realized that they didn't want her and the kids to come to Europe, is they should have let the palace know months ago. Because apparently, according to the Daily Telegraph, there have been talks and discussions within Montecito, and all their close friends apparently knew for months, ever since the release of Spare or before, that Meghan wasn't going to go to the coronation. And so I'm like, well, then why did you sit on it? You're people who claim all the time that you want privacy. Well, all you had to do for privacy is tell everybody in January, when apparently you knew this, that Meghan wasn't going to come to the coronation. So why then did they sit on this? Well, I think there's a couple of different reasons, but one of them, of course, is they want to create drama and interest in the press. This story has been weaving in and out of the press for the last several months. Harry and Meghan like the drama, even though they say they don't. They would like the attention, even though they say they don't. But also, I do think while Harry and Meghan claimed, at least to quote-unquote friends, that they both weren't going to go to the coronation, they were going to continue to try to push and leverage and see if they could get more out of the event than the royal palace was willing to let them do. So they were like, okay, we'll just sit on this. We won't let them know, but we'll just kind of inch and try to negotiate. I think there was a long negotiation process where Harry and Meghan kept going, well, what about this? And the palace was like, no. What about this? No. Can we do? No. No, you can't do any of that. And so I think that was a long process. And I think Meghan's decision was, well, if we can't get on the balcony, if we're not treated as if Harry is the fifth in line to the throne and still a working royal, then I won't go. Because again, everything Meghan does is self-serving. Everything she does is completely self-serving. I think the whole reason they went to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee is not to celebrate the Queen, because you got to remember they didn't spend any time with the family during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, when there was lots of family moments and there was a lot of warmth between the family. Harry and Meghan look increasingly cold and isolated instead of actually being welcomed in. So I think the whole reason they went to the Platinum Jubilee was solely to try to get a picture of Lilibet and the Queen. That was their whole goal. They failed in that goal because the palace intervened, but I think that was the sole reason they went, is for that. And to get coverage for Netflix, and of course they couldn't get as much as they wanted. And so I think that was their sole motivation for going. So this time Meghan doesn't have that same leverage. She doesn't have that same ability to kind of try to wiggle in a bit and try to get something. They weren't going to be treated as well perhaps as they were during the Queen's funeral. They were going to be relegated to the back row with Andrew, and perhaps Meghan wasn't going to get a wear tiara like Catherine was, and Meghan would have to curtsy to Catherine and the rest of the royals, and Meghan just can't do that. She married into this institution, abuses the title, wants all of us to call her kids a prince and princess, and yet refuses to attend any of the events that make her relevant. There's just something very aggravating about that. She abuses completely that royal title. And looking at all this together, what I came across as well is I think she is a coward. Now think about this. So there has been a lot of talk that Meghan and Harry perhaps would be booed. Now, Harry by himself may still be booed. Latest YouGov poll came out, and apparently Meghan is at 22% likability and Harry is at 25%. They are very unlikable right now. And so the idea that they would be booed together is strong, but the idea that Harry wouldn't be booed without Meghan there is not strong. So she's letting him go and potentially be booed and not supporting him at all. And she's avoiding perhaps a humiliation of Harry being shucked to the back row and her being with him, of her having to curtsy to Catherine and Camilla and the other senior royals, which she doesn't really want to do. And so I think Meghan wanted to avoid the humiliation that they experienced during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Again, they were sat in the back row as far away from the other royals as humanly possible. And there are reports right now that William and Harry will be definitely very separated during the coronation event, which I think makes sense. You don't want somebody who's tarnished your family, been very, very difficult for the last several months, to have a prominent role and be sat right next to you during the coronation. And so what does Meghan do in this situation where it's gonna be a tough couple days? Harry's gonna have to toe the line, which he doesn't like to do anymore. He's going to have respect for his father and his brother, which apparently he doesn't have anymore. The institution he supposedly still loves his title from, that he also sort of kind of hates, and the UK in general, which he claims he wants to save, and yet is constantly undermining their head of state. So Harry is going to go here, potentially be booed, potentially be humiliated. And what's Meghan Markle going to do? Why, she's going to do the most cowardly thing she can do, which is stay back in Montecito and claim, well, my son needs his birthday party. My son needs his special birthday party. And I'm sorry, but that's really, really cowardly of her. Again, I can see both sides. I think nobody really wants her to attend. Nobody in the royal family, nobody in the public really wants her to attend, except for her crazy stands. So everybody else is kind of like, yes. But at the same time, if Meghan Markle had an ounce of decency to her, an ounce of respect, she would go. She would go, because that is showing deference and respect to your family members, to your husband's family members. But Meghan Markle, that's not her. I love this cover from The Sun, which I think is so apt here. It says, "The king was there for you, so sad you can't make it for him." And that's huge. The royal family has gone out of its way to be kind to her, to be generous to her, to raise her star profile the way she never could on her own, because she was a crappy actress. That she would never have the star power, the influence that she has without the royal family. And yet, and Charles walked her halfway down the aisle. He gave her and Harry tons of money, not as much as they wanted. Again, we have the reports that Charles told them, I can't afford you. I think he was saying that, well, I can't afford her to purchase a $75,000 or $100,000 dress whenever she feels like it. We can't go through that. She's the wife of the spare. She will never get the budget Catherine and William will. And me and my wife will. That's just the reality of the situation. And so I don't think Meghan took kindly to that at all. But they were enormously generous to her. She got the wedding she wanted. She got a tiara. She got so much. And what does she do? She throws it back in their face and goes, well, my son's birthday party. And again, celebrate your son's birthday party, of course. But you're telling me right now that you think your 4-year-old really cares that much that his birthday is on his birthday and that all his friends are there. His dad's not there. You guys weren't there for his birthday last year. I think you were playing polo or doing something else. And not to mention the fact, wouldn't it be so cool as a kid for your birthday to be on the coronation day? You get to see all this pageantry from the windows of Buckingham Palace. He's not going to be on the balcony, but perhaps he can view it from certain areas, view the fly past. That's something he'll remember. So Queen Elizabeth was 11 years old when her father was crowned, so that's not quite the age I was thinking it was, but I imagine as a child, something as huge and as monumentous as a coronation would stick much better in your memory than a middling party with your friends that you see all the time, your family members that you see all the time, and that everybody else, because I don't remember my 4th birthday. Who remembers their 4th birthday? But do you remember an event in history? Yeah, I think you would, especially if you were there. So I think, again, that Harry and Meghan are denying their children this, I think looks reprehensible on them for sure. And this is not the first time Meghan has done this. Meghan, when it came to the Mexit announcement, so Harry and Meghan came back from Canada after their Christmas break, and they went to the Canada House. It was a last minute thing. There was a lot of press there, and basically as they were leaving, they announced Mexit, and Meghan was literally on the next flight back to Canada because, you know, she had to go back to Archie. And what about Harry? Well, Harry had to deal with the fallout with his family. Harry had to discuss things with everyone. And he had to face the music, whereas she was like, oh, I don't care. So I'm just going to go over to Canada. Harry, you deal with it all. But then she also had the gall to be upset that they didn't want to phone her in. Now, I think there's 2 different ways you can look at it. I think definitely the monarchy didn't want her anywhere near the negotiations. And also I think as well, they were of course nervous that she would potentially record the negotiations if she was phoning in. But at the same time, if she was there, if she had faced his family with him, maybe she would have been in those negotiations. It's entirely possible. But no, she was a coward and she left. So she dropped this bomb with her husband and then abandoned him to let him deal with the fallout. And I just think, again, that's cowardly. When they came back for their final tour of the UK, and I think there were still some negotiations going on, Harry had to deal with the final engagements, and then Meghan just jumped ship as soon as humanly possible, as soon as she was done with the Commonwealth event on Monday, because the Commonwealth events are on Monday. She just got on the next plane, and then again, once again, let her husband deal with the fallout, because that's who Meghan is. When push comes to shove, when things get difficult, she doesn't want to support her husband. She abandons him to deal with it himself. And I just think when it comes to a couple dynamic, A, that's just not healthy. And B, if you're part of the chaos, then deal with it with your husband. Don't let him, give him to the wolves, give him to the public, the media, everyone to deal with it himself while you, quote unquote, you know, perhaps protect yourself by going back to Canada or the United States or wherever. We even saw this during the tour of Harry's book for Spare. Meghan wasn't seen. She wasn't out and about at all. She let him deal with it because, you know, this is his book. But there could have been a couple instances, especially in the beginning of either the ITV interview or the one with Anderson Cooper. She could have come and met with them briefly and just shared how proud she was of him and his book and everything. But no. And we got the reports even then that she was maybe a bit hesitant about some of the things that he put in. So what does she do? She leaves him. And you know, he deals with everything himself. And then she comes in and takes the glory at certain moments. But she abandons him in so many ways to just face the music by himself when things get challenging. So they're not as much a united unit as we would want to think. In fact, they're quite separated. Their projects have been separated. So Meghan's Archetypes project, really Harry popped in, a time or two, and then really had nothing to do with it. And initially, their first trailer for Archwell Audio, they did it together. They did their first episode together, but are they working together again? No. And then we have obviously their Netflix series as well. And again, I think they miscalculated how badly the reaction would be to the Netflix documentary. And then you also think the book as well. They were not anticipating to be fully and completely mocked by South Park to the extent of everybody was laughing at them. And so I think Meghan wants to protect her public image, but is more than willing to let Harry tarnish his by going and perhaps facing the music alone. And again, two ways to look at this. Yes, everybody's happy Meghan isn't going. But I also see the point of if she respects Harry and she respects his family, she would go. But Meghan doesn't respect the monarchy. The thing that gave her everything. Nobody would care about Meghan Markle without the monarchy. She doesn't respect her husband because she just lets him wander and waver by himself as needed, as necessary, because it's a moment that she just doesn't want to be part of, because it might be challenging, might put her in a bad way. So she's like, well, you do it. She doesn't respect her father-in-law because she won't attend his coronation. It's so cowardly and shows such a lack of respect that she won't be with him in the most important day of his life. And what's interesting too is there's a couple articles talking about how Harry and Meghan, or at least particularly Meghan, doesn't see her future in the UK at all. And so here's what it said in one of the pieces. So this is from the Telegraph. As recent royal history has proved, the Sussexes would only reluctantly play second fiddle when Queen Elizabeth was conducting the orchestra. And now she's no longer waving the baton. Meghan's well and truly left the band. Like John Lennon, she very much sees her future in the US, says Friends. So it will be left to Harry to suck up the ignominy of being excluded from both the King's procession and coronation procession, and from the Buckingham Palace balcony. Blood is thicker than water and all that. So here's the big question though. If Meghan really truly sees her future in the US, why does she have a royal title? Why does she need it? If her future is in the US and she won't even pony up the courage to go and attend the coronation of Charles, her father-in-law, and allow him to see his grandchildren, instead she'll just stay in California because, her future is there. Her future isn't in the UK anymore, guys. It's in the United States. Well, then why do you have a title? You don't need it if that's where your future is. Your kids don't need it if that's where their future is. If that's where your future is, then the royal family, the government, how they need to come together to do this, they need to strip your titles. Because if you're not going to support the UK government, if you're not going to support its head of state, if you are not going to, even in the slightest attempt, represent the United Kingdom, you don't need a royal title in the United States. Because again, we don't need a UK Duchess calling our politicians, claiming I'm the Duchess of Sussex, and trying to get their attention. That's not appropriate at all. That's not, our country fought a war, so that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. If you want to use a title, if you want all the privileges that come with that, then you need to live in the UK. You don't need to live here in the United States claiming you're a UK Duchess. Again, it's just so ridiculous. And I think at the end of the day, what may happen to Meghan Markle is I think her cowardice is going to lead to her downfall. Because Meghan's brand, once again, she claims that she is a duchess. She wants us to call her always Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex. And yet she can't pony up the courage to actually go to the UK and exercise her royal title in a productive and appropriate manner. No, she can't do that. And I think it raises the possibility and increases the likelihood that that royal title is temporary. And so is the royal title for your children. I don't think William will allow you to have it once he is king. I think that will be something stripped of your children at some point. They'll be relegated to perhaps the stylings of a duke, or perhaps down to, well, they can be lord and lady and that's it. And again, I think this is a change that needs to happen, because royal titles now in this modern age, for royal families to function, they're not necessarily a right. They should be seen as a privilege that can be removed if you step out of line. Because if you have Archie and Lily lollygagging around California, calling themselves Prince and Princess of the United Kingdom and falling out of nightclubs or whatever. That's going to look bad on the UK because they have no connection to the UK government. And Meghan has made it very clear, apparently, that she doesn't want to go back to the UK and again, face some music. She was booed last time she was there, and I imagine those boos will be much, much louder now. And she doesn't want to deal with that because, once again, she's a coward. And their public image is in free fall right now. And because of this free fall, I don't think they necessarily know what to do. The easiest thing for them to do would be to go to the UK together, have their kids be seen with Charles at least once, or know that they actually spent some time with him. Because again, the biggest hindrance I think right now to Harry and Meghan's public image is that they claim they're the peacemakers. They claim they want reconciliation. And yet they won't come to the most important events of the family. They won't spend any time with the family. So how can you claim you want to reconcile when you won't spend any time with them? When you make outrageous demands all the time on them, demands you know they can't meet, demands that you know are false or inflated, those sorts of things. The royal family can't do that in this situation. But in order to reconcile, they need to come together. And that will only happen if Meghan can pony up the courage to actually face her in-laws. And I think she got pretty much very much a cold shoulder during the Queen's funeral, and I think that was tough on her ego. I think that was hugely tough on her ego. And again, she will be always playing now second fiddle to Catherine. Catherine will be queen, Meghan will not. And so while I think Meghan is in a lose-lose situation here in a lot of ways, I think actually for their future it would have been better if she went. It would have been better if she went. It's easier now to say, well, Meghan can't come to see the head of state be crowned. Even though she uses and abuses that title freely, why does she need it if she can't even pony up the courage? So I think at the end of the day, this example of cowardice is going to be really what sticks to people. Now, again, they don't really want her there. So again, there is that catch-22. She's darned if she does, darned if she doesn't. But at the same time, I think Harry and Meghan always in these situations come off looking much, much worse. And I think Meghan does herself no favors by not attending, because Harry, once again, is left to everything, left to face his family by himself while she hides in California and then is going to try to shamelessly try and steal the limelight for an instance. It won't really work because, hey, watching somebody walk around with some of the largest diamonds in the entire world on his head and being held in his arm is going to be something that really outshines a 4-year-old's birthday party. So sorry, Meghan. I know that burst your bubble a lot. But Meghan and Harry, if they want a future, if they want to do their own thing truly, they need to drop this act. They need to drop the royal thing entirely. But Harry is going in part to re-establish those royal connections because they desperately need those to make money. And that's why he's going, because in reality, if she doesn't want to go, he shouldn't go. But if that he's going is just once again to reestablish his credentials that yes, he is the son of the king, even though nobody likes him, will be shucked in the corner. But he's going to go ahead and do it because Harry and Meghan desperately need the money. They lead a billionaire's lifestyle on a millionaire's salary. And at some point, I think that's really starting to hurt. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think. Is Meghan Markle a coward? I just find that really interesting because I feel like every time push comes to shove, she pushes Harry into the wolf's den and just walks out. That's exactly what she does. It's exactly who she is. So guys, let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.